When my daughter told me she deserved my inheritance more than I did, I laughed it off as a tasteless joke. Days later, I was standing in my mother's lawyer's office, watching my name being erased from the will entirely. That's when I realized family ties can become nooses if you're not careful about who's holding the rope. If you're watching this video, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me if you've ever been betrayed by family. Because trust me, this story is about to get more twisted than a tornado in a corkscrew factory. I never thought I'd be telling this story to strangers on the internet. But here I am, at 67 years old, spilling my guts about how my own flesh and blood tried to steal everything from me. Not just my money or my home, but my very dignity. My name is Martha Calloway, and until 6 months ago, I was living what I thought was a peaceful retirement. My husband Robert passed away 10 years ago, leaving me with our family home, some modest savings, and plenty of memories. Our 2 children, Elaine and Timothy, were grown with families of their own. I spent my days volunteering at the local library and tending to my garden. Simple pleasures, but they were mine. Then my mother Evelyn died at 92. We all knew it was coming, but it still hit me hard. Mom and I had always been close. After Dad died, she lived in her own little cottage on the edge of town, fiercely independent to the end. The funeral was beautiful, simple, elegant, just as she would have wanted. She lived a full life, everyone kept saying, patting my hand, as if that made losing her any easier. The real trouble started a week later. I was in Mom's cottage, sorting through her belongings when my daughter, Elaine, showed up unannounced. "Mom, don't you think it's a little soon to be going through Grandma's things?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe of Mom's bedroom. I looked up from the stack of old letters I'd been organizing. "I'm just trying to get a head start, honey. You know how these things pile up." Elaine walked over, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. At 42, my daughter had always been the ambitious one. Corporate lawyer, divorced, no children, her career was her baby. Script part separator ===. She picked up one of Mom's silver picture frames, studying it. "I know you were close to Grandma, but shouldn't we wait for the will reading before deciding what happens to everything?" Something in her tone made me pause. Mom always said she was leaving the cottage to me and dividing her savings between you and Timothy. Elaine set down the frame with a sharp click. Well, people change their minds, especially at her age. I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," she said, too quickly. "I just think we should wait for Mr. Gillespie to read the will." Mr. Gillespie had been Mom's lawyer for decades. He'd scheduled the will reading for the following Monday. "Elaine, is there something you're not telling me?" She hesitated, then sighed dramatically. "Fine. Grandma and I talked a lot these past few years. She worried about you being alone in that big house. She thought maybe you should sell it, move somewhere smaller." My stomach tightened. She never mentioned that to me. "Well, she wouldn't want to upset you." Elaine glanced at her watch. "I've got to run. Client meeting. See you Monday at Gillespie's." After she left, I sat among Mom's belongings feeling strangely unsettled. Elaine had always been close with her grandmother, but lately their relationship had intensified. Weekly lunches, shopping trips. I'd been happy about it until now. Monday arrived with gray skies and a steady drizzle that matched my mood. Timothy flew in from Chicago that morning, rushing straight from the airport to the law office. My son looked tired, his usually neat appearance slightly rumpled from travel. "Sorry I'm late," he said, kissing my cheek. Flight was delayed. Elaine was already there, perfectly put together in a charcoal suit, hair sleek, not a wrinkle in sight. She barely looked up from her phone when we entered. Mr. Gillespie welcomed us into his office, a wood-paneled room that smelled of leather and furniture polish. "Before we begin," he said, adjusting his glasses, "I want to express my condolences. Evelyn was a remarkable woman. Script part separator ===. We all murmured agreement, and I noticed Elaine straighten in her chair. Mr. Gillespie cleared his throat. "As you know, I've been handling Evelyn's legal affairs for many years. Her will was quite straightforward until—" He paused, glancing at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Until approximately 8 months ago, when she made some significant changes. My heart skipped. Changes? He nodded, opening a folder. I'll read the relevant sections. I, Evelyn Grace Calloway, being of sound mind, hereby revoke all previous wills and testaments. To my beloved granddaughter, Elaine Margaret Calloway, I leave my entire estate, including my cottage, all financial assets and personal belongings. The room went silent. I felt as if I'd been slapped. There must be some mistake, I said finally. Mr. Gillespie looked uncomfortable. I'm afraid not, Martha. Evelyn was very clear about her wishes. I turned to Elaine, who was staring at her manicured nails. Did you know about this? She met my eyes with cool composure. Grandma and I discussed her wishes, yes. And you didn't think to mention it to me? Your own mother? It wasn't my place to tell you. Timothy leaned forward. This doesn't make any sense. Grandma always said she'd divide everything between us. Mr. Gillespie adjusted his tie. There is a letter that Evelyn asked me to read. He pulled out an envelope. My dearest Martha, by now you know of my decision. Please understand that Elaine has shown me remarkable care and attention in my final years. She has proven herself capable of managing my affairs and preserving my legacy. You have your home and Robert's pension. You'll be fine. All my love, Mom. The words hit me like physical blows. You'll be fine. As if I cared about the money more than what this meant, that my mother had shut me out, chosen my daughter over me. This can't be legal, I said, my voice shaking. Mom was 92. She could have been confused, manipulated. Mom. Elaine snapped. Don't you dare suggest I manipulated Grandma. Mr. Gillespie cleared his throat again. I can assure you, Martha, your mother was of sound mind when she signed this will. I personally verified her competence. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I need some air. Timothy followed me into the hallway. Mom, this is crazy. We should contest it. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Everything felt wrong, tilted, as if the world had suddenly shifted on its axis. Did you know she was spending so much time with Elaine? I asked him. He shook his head. I mean, Elaine mentioned lunches sometimes, but nothing that sounded unusual. Your sister has always been ambitious, I said quietly. But I never thought she'd... script part separator ... The door opened, and Elaine emerged, clutching a leather portfolio. I know you're upset, she said coolly. But Grandma made her choice. She wanted someone who could preserve her legacy properly. And I couldn't? My voice cracked. Look at your house, Mom. It's falling apart. You can barely keep up with the gardening anymore. Grandma was worried you'd let her cottage deteriorate the same way. The casual cruelty of her words stunned me. That garden was your father's pride. I keep it exactly as he would have wanted. Elaine checked her watch. I have a meeting. We can discuss this later when you're more rational. As she walked away, Timothy put his arm around me. This isn't right, Mom. Something's off. Back home, I wandered through the rooms that Robert and I had lovingly restored over decades. Yes, there were some repairs needed. A loose banister, peeling paint in the guest bathroom. But falling apart? That was Elaine's exaggeration. My home was lived in, comfortable, filled with memories. That night, I couldn't sleep. By 3 a.m., I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, making lists. Mom's estate wasn't vast, but between the cottage, her savings, and some valuable antiques, it was substantial, close to $800,000. Not a fortune, but enough to set Elaine up very nicely. The cottage itself was worth about $400,000, a charming two-bedroom with a wraparound porch on an acre of land. Mom had inherited it from her parents and had always said it would be mine someday. It should stay in the direct line, she used to say. Mother to daughter. The next morning, I called Janet Wilson, my oldest friend and a retired nurse who had helped care for Mom occasionally. Did Mom seem confused to you these past few months? I asked her. Not confused exactly, Janet said carefully, but sometimes worried. She mentioned feeling pressured about something, but wouldn't elaborate. Pressured? By whom? She never said. But Elaine was there a lot, always hovering. I never liked the way she talked to your mother, like she was a child who couldn't make decisions. My stomach clenched. Did you ever see any papers? Legal documents? No, but there was one strange thing. Last time I visited, about 2 months ago, your mother was upset after Elaine left. She said something odd. I hope I'm doing the right thing. Martha would understand if she knew everything. Script part separator equals. I sat up straighter. Knew everything? What did she mean by that? I asked her the same thing, Janet replied. But she just shook her head and changed the subject. Said she was tired. That conversation haunted me. What didn't I know? What secret was my mother keeping that would make her cut me out of her will? Timothy stayed in town for 3 more days, helping me search through Mom's papers for any clues. We found nothing unusual, just neatly organized bills, correspondence, and old photographs. Maybe we should hire an investigator, Timothy suggested as he packed to return to Chicago. Something isn't adding up. I can't afford an investigator, I admitted. Not anymore. The truth was, my financial situation wasn't as secure as everyone assumed. Robert's pension covered my basic expenses, but the house needed expensive repairs. I'd been counting on my inheritance to fix the roof and update the ancient heating system before winter. After Timothy left, I drove to Mom's cottage. It felt wrong using the spare key now that the property wasn't mine, but I needed answers. The cottage was exactly as Mom had left it, tidy, peaceful, with vases of dried lavender on every windowsill. I went to her small home office and began methodically searching through every drawer and folder. Hours passed with nothing to show for it. As twilight fell, I was about to give up when I noticed the edge of a paper sticking out from under the antique desk blotter, Mom's favorite hiding spot when we played hide-and-seek with documents during my childhood. I lifted the blotter and found a handwritten letter from Elaine dated 9 months ago. Dear Grandma, I've been thinking about our conversation. You're right that Mom doesn't need to know about my financial situation. The bankruptcy was unfortunate, but with your help, I can get back on my feet without anyone finding out. I've drafted the will changes as we discussed. Once you sign them, I'll handle everything else. Mom never has to know about Atlantic City or Marcus. Remember, this is for the best. Mom wouldn't understand the pressures I've been under. Love, Elaine. My hands trembled as I read the letter twice more. Bankruptcy? Atlantic City? Who was Marcus? What had my daughter been hiding, and how had she used it to manipulate my mother? I carefully photographed the letter with my phone before placing it back exactly where I found it. Then I drove home, my mind racing with questions and the first stirrings of a plan. Script part separator equals. The next morning I called my son. Timothy, I found something, I said, my voice shaking with adrenaline. I forwarded him the photo of Elaine's letter. His sharp intake of breath told me he was as shocked as I'd been. Bankruptcy? Mom, I had no idea. And what's this about Atlantic City? I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. I felt a strange energy coursing through me, anger mixed with determination. I need your help. Whatever you need. I can fly back this weekend. No, stay put for now. I need information. Can you do some digging into Elaine's finances? You have contacts in banking, right? Timothy hesitated. This is getting into dangerous territory, Mom. What Elaine did was wrong, but invading her privacy. She invaded mine. I snapped, surprising even myself with my vehemence. She manipulated my dying mother and stole what was rightfully mine. I'm not just going to roll over. 2 days later, Timothy called back. You were right to be suspicious, he said grimly. Elaine filed for Chapter 7 last year. She lost almost everything in some investment scheme. But here's the weird part. She should still be broke, yet she just put a down payment on a condo in Phoenix. Phoenix? She's never mentioned moving. There's more. I found a Marcus Davidson who works at Riverdale Casino in Atlantic City. He's got multiple fraud complaints against him for targeting wealthy women. My blood ran cold. You think Elaine got mixed up with him? It fits the timeline. And Mom? I checked Grandma's bank records. She withdrew $75,000 in cash 3 months before she died. The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture uglier than I could have imagined. My daughter, desperate after financial ruin, had preyed on her grandmother's generosity and then taken everything else too. That night, as I stood in my kitchen making tea, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Calloway, we haven't met.
I'm Marcus Davidson.
Your daughter owes me money. Lots of it. Maybe we should talk. Script part separator equals. My hands shook as I stared at the message. How did this man get my number? And what exactly did Elaine owe him that he'd tracked down her mother? I called Timothy immediately. He found me first, I said, forwarding him the text.
Don't respond, Mom.
Timothy warned. This guy could be dangerous.
We need to get the police involved.
And tell them what? That my daughter manipulated my mother into changing her will? That's not a crime, Timothy. But extortion is. If this Marcus character is threatening you, he's not threatening me.
Yet.
I took a deep breath. I'm going to meet him. Absolutely not. Timothy exploded. You have no idea who this guy is. I need answers, Timothy. And he has them. Despite my son's protests, I arranged to meet Marcus the next day at a coffee shop downtown, public enough to be safe, private enough for a delicate conversation. Marcus Davidson was not what I expected. Instead of a slick con man, I found myself facing a well-dressed man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes. Mrs. Calloway, he said, offering his hand.
Thank you for meeting me.
You said my daughter owes you money, I replied, ignoring his outstretched hand. He withdrew it with a slight nod.
She does.
$120,000, to be exact. I nearly choked on my coffee.
What?
Your daughter has a gambling problem, Mrs. Calloway. Started small, a few thousand here and there. Then bigger bets. When she lost, I extended credit. Professional courtesy. You're a loan shark, I said flatly. He smiled thinly. I provide financial services to exclusive clients. Your daughter qualified until she didn't pay. Script part separator equals. I still don't understand why you're telling me this, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Marcus leaned forward. Your daughter told me her grandmother died and left her a substantial inheritance. She promised to pay me when the estate cleared. Now I hear there might be complications. A chill ran down my spine. How do you know about complications? He smiled again. All teeth and no warmth. I make it my business to know things, Mrs. Calloway. Especially when money is involved. If you're looking for payment, you'll have to talk to Elaine. The will is quite clear. Everything goes to her. Marcus's eyes narrowed.
Here's the thing.
Your daughter used her inheritance as collateral for her debt. But if that inheritance is contested, I'm not contesting it, I said, though the words tasted bitter. Yet, he replied. But you could. And if you did, my collection timeline gets complicated. I took a sip of my cooling coffee, using the moment to think. So, what exactly do you want from me?
Assurance.
A signed statement that you won't contest your mother's will. In exchange, I can provide you with some interesting information. What kind of information? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were photos of Elaine with an older man I recognized immediately, Mr. Gillespie, my mother's lawyer. They were not professional meetings, Mrs. Calloway. They've been involved for over a year. Your daughter has been manipulating more than just your mother. I stared at the images, my stomach churning with disgust and betrayal. Elaine and Mr. Gillespie? The ethical violations alone were staggering. There's more, Marcus continued. Your daughter forged documents, not just your mother's will. If these came to light, she'd face criminal charges. But that would mean no inheritance for anyone, including me. I looked up from the photos, suddenly seeing everything clearly. You're blackmailing me. I prefer to call it negotiating. You sign away your right to contest. I keep quiet about the forgery. Elaine pays me, and everyone gets something. Except you, of course. But then, you weren't getting anything anyway. Script part separator equals. I stood up, gathering my purse. This meeting is over. Marcus remained seated, unperturbed. Think about it, Mrs. Calloway. I'll give you 48 hours. I walked out, my legs shaking but my spine rigid with newfound resolve. This wasn't just about an inheritance anymore. This was about justice. Back home, I called Timothy immediately. He's blackmailing me to protect Elaine so she can pay him, I explained, pacing my kitchen. But he also gave me leverage, without realizing it. Elaine and Mr. Gillespie have been involved romantically, while he was handling Mom's will. Timothy whistled. That's a serious conflict of interest. And if there's forgery involved, then the will is invalid, I finished. But Marcus is right about one thing. If we pursue criminal charges, this could drag on for years. So, what's your plan?
Timothy asked.
I smiled grimly. I'm going to confront them both. Together.
Tomorrow.
Mom, that's dangerous. At least let me fly down. No time. Marcus gave me 48 hours. Besides, I added, feeling a surprising surge of confidence, I can handle myself. That night, I barely slept. Instead, I prepared. I gathered copies of Elaine's letter, the photos from Marcus, and printed bank statements showing Mom's suspicious withdrawals. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would stand. For the first time since Robert died, I felt his presence strongly, as if he were standing beside me, giving me strength. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into Mr. Gillespie's office, without an appointment. I need to see Mr. Gillespie immediately, I told his startled secretary. And call my daughter. Tell her it's an emergency. Mrs. Calloway, he's with a client. I walked past her, straight to his door, and pushed it open. Mr. Gillespie looked up from his desk, alarm flashing across his face. Martha, this is highly irregular. So is sleeping with your client's granddaughter while manipulating a will in her favor, I replied calmly, placing Marcus's photos on his desk. I believe that's called malpractice. Possibly criminal conspiracy. Script part separator equals. His face drained of color. Where did you get these? I sat down uninvited. Let's wait for Elaine, shall we? I think we should have this conversation once. 20 minutes later, Elaine burst into the office, her hair windblown, her eyes wild. Mom? What's going on? Your message said. She stopped short when she saw the photos spread across the desk. What is this? She whispered. The truth, I replied. About you and Mr. Gillespie. About the forged will. About Marcus Davidson and your gambling debts. Elaine's knees seemed to give out, and she sank into a chair. How did you find out? I leaned forward. Did you really think I wouldn't fight for what's rightfully mine? That I'd just accept being erased from my own mother's will? Mr. Gillespie cleared his throat. Martha, these accusations are serious. Save it, I snapped. I know Mom didn't change her will voluntarily. And I know about the $75,000 she gave Elaine before she died. Was that your idea too? To drain her accounts before she passed? Elaine's face crumpled. You don't understand. I was desperate. Marcus was threatening me. So you used your dying grandmother to pay your gambling debts. I finished for her. And when that wasn't enough, you two cooked up this scheme to take everything else too. It wasn't like that. Elaine protested. Grandma wanted to help me. By cutting her own daughter out of her will entirely? I shook my head.
No.
I knew Mom. She would never do that willingly. Mr. Gillespie adjusted his tie nervously. What exactly do you want, Martha? I smiled coldly. I want what's rightfully mine. Half of Mom's estate, as she always intended. And I want it without a lengthy court battle that would destroy both your reputations and careers. You're blackmailing us, Elaine whispered.
I'm negotiating, ikirekted här.
Just like your friend Marcus. Script part separator equals. The color drained from Elaine's face. You've met Marcus? We had coffee yesterday, I said calmly. He showed me some very interesting photos. Seems he likes to keep insurance on his investments. Mr. Gillespie stood up suddenly. This meeting is over. I suggest we all take some time to sit down, I commanded with an authority that surprised even me. I'm not finished. He sat, exchanging nervous glances with my daughter. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to draft a new agreement transferring half of Mom's estate to me, as she originally intended. You'll do it today, and we'll all sign it before witnesses that I've already arranged to meet us at 2 p.m. And if we refuse? Elaine challenged, though her voice trembled. I pulled out my phone. Then I make 3 calls. First to the State Bar Association about Mr. Gillespie's ethical violations. Second to the police about the forged will. And third, I paused, to the Riverdale Casino, where I believe Marcus has some powerful friends waiting for their money. You wouldn't, Elaine whispered. Try me. I leaned forward.
You stole from me, Elaine.
You manipulated our dying mother. Did you really think I'd just roll over and take it? Mr. Gillespie cleared his throat. Perhaps we can come to an arrangement. I've already outlined the arrangement, I replied. Half the estate to me, half to Elaine. And Timothy gets the family photos and heirlooms that Mom promised him. What about Marcus? Elaine asked, her voice small. That's your problem, I said coldly. You created this mess. You can clean it up. Script part separator equals. 2 hours later, Mr. Gillespie's office was crowded with witnesses. Janet Wilson, my neighbor Frank Peterson, and Timothy, who had somehow managed to catch a morning flight despite my instructions to stay in Chicago. I watched as Elaine signed the new agreement, her hand trembling slightly. The fight had gone out of her, replaced by a dull resignation that made her look older than her years. This doesn't change anything, she muttered as she pushed the paper toward me. You've ruined my life. You did that yourself, I replied quietly. I just refused to let you ruin mine too. After everyone had signed and the witnesses had left, Timothy put his arm around my shoulders. You were amazing, Mom. I never knew you had it in you. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Neither did I. Back home, I sat on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The cottage would be mine after all, Mom's final gift, passed down as she'd always intended. The money would fix my roof and update the heating system. I could keep my home, my dignity, my independence. My phone buzzed with a text from a now familiar number. Impressive, Mrs. Calloway. You'd make a good negotiator. Consider your daughter's debt transferred to different terms. I deleted the message without responding. Whatever arrangement Marcus had made with Elaine was their business now. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since Mom died. In my dreams, she was sitting beside me in her garden, smiling approvingly. You always were the strong one, Dream Mom said. I knew you'd figure it out. Script part separator equals. The next morning, I woke to hammering at my front door. When I opened it, Elaine stood there, eyes red-rimmed, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Can I come in? She asked, her voice hoarse. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Coffee? Please. We sat at my kitchen table, the morning light streaming through the windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing between us. I sold my condo, she said finally, and my car. It still wasn't enough for Marcus. I'm sorry to hear that, I replied, surprised to find I meant it. He's giving me 2 weeks to come up with the rest. Her hands trembled around her mug. I might have to leave town. I studied my daughter's face, seeing for the first time the toll her secrets had taken. The fine lines around her eyes, the tightness in her jaw. What happened to you, Elaine? When did money become more important than family? She looked away. It wasn't about money at first. It was about feeling powerful, in control. Then it became about not losing everything. Her voice cracked. Then it was just about surviving. By stealing from her grandmother? From me? I never meant, she stopped, sighed. That's a lie. I did mean it. I convinced myself you didn't need it, that I deserved it more. She met my eyes. I was wrong.
I'm sorry, Mum.
The apology hung between us, fragile as spun glass. Not enough to repair what was broken, but perhaps a place to start. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued. But I wanted you to know that I understand what I did. And I'm going to try to make it right somehow. Where will you go? I asked her. Somewhere far. Maybe Seattle or Portland. Start over, where nobody knows me. She hesitated. I won't ask you for money. I know I've lost that right. I stir my coffee, thinking about second chances and what they cost. Timothy says you're a good lawyer, despite everything. That your clients respect you. They did, she said quietly. Before the gambling, the debts. Before I threw it all away. 2 weeks later, Elaine left town. She didn't tell me where she was going, but Timothy said she'd found a paralegal position in a small town in Oregon. Starting over from the bottom. I moved into Mom's cottage that spring. I kept my house too, renting it to a young family who loved the garden as much as Robert had. Between the rental income and my half of Mom's savings, I was more than comfortable. The cottage felt right, like Mom was still there in the creaking floorboards and the scent of lavender that lingered in the closets. I planted her favorite roses along the fence and set up bird feeders where she used to watch cardinals in the morning. Timothy visits often, bringing his children to swim in the lake and build pillow forts in the living room. We don't talk much about Elaine, but sometimes he shows me photos he's received. My daughter, thinner, her hair shorter, looking somehow both older and younger in casual clothes I've never seen her wear. Last month, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note in Elaine's handwriting. First payment. More to come.
I'm sorry, Mum.
I framed the note, but tore up the check. Some debts money can't repay, and some lessons are worth more than inheritance. The true legacy my mother left wasn't in her will or her cottage or her bank accounts. It was in teaching me that I'm stronger than I ever knew.